and I'm so excited because I feel like I cracked it this time, guys. I know I said that the last time, but to be fair, we still don't know if I'm wrong or not, okay? So, like, I'm kind of on a roll
carpet
here,
bombing,
right?
You're carpet bombing.
No.
It's not a roll, it's carpet bombing.
Carpet bombing is when you make multiple theories about the same concept so you're ensured to be right in one particular avenue. This is a theory about a very specific thing that can either be proven right or it can be proven wrong. And I think that it is going to be proven right. So let's get into it, okay? So yesterday I was investigating, as one does, and I noticed that there's something a little suspicious about the relic. The relic glows. It glows in kind of a pulsating way where it's like in and out. And we see this happen
Describe pulsating again,
like
in and out.
Right? Like kind of like do, like in a heartbeat sort of way,
Okay.
right? And then when Neo steals it, it's glowing. And then when Cinder asks the question to Jin, it's glowing. But you know when it's not fucking glowing? Anytime after Cinder used the question and it's back to Neo. And so some people may look at that and they may think, well, it's not glowing anymore because there is no more questions to be asked. Like it is no longer in use. And
The
therefore, the magic juice is up for now.
They
we'll have
squeezed
to,
out the magic juice.
We'll have to get back to it later. However, something occurred to me on my investigation yesterday. What if the relic that Cinder took from Neo was not the real relic, and it was instead something that was illusioned to look like a relic? Because we have a couple facts here, okay? We know that Neo can hide the relic in her hat, and when she does, it actually gets smaller, and she's able to pull it out of her hat. And that's when she gives it to Cinder, right, in the alleyway. But then after the alleyway, for some reason, Neo has the relic again, which is kind of weird because if Cinder was always planning to betray Neo, why give her the relic back? And then also, why give Neo the relic back if the relic is useless and out of questions? So there's just a couple weird things, like with the internal Cinder logic that don't really make sense to me. Like, why are you giving the relic back to Neo? Why would she care? Like, why would she give a fuck if she knows that it's out of questions? What if Cinder, part of the deal, something that was sort of maybe implied between them in a place at a time that we didn't see, was you help me get the Relic of Knowledge and then it's all yours. You can ask it whatever you want because Neo doesn't know that it only has limited questions or that it only has 3 questions. And so after, that's the deal that she makes with Cinder. Like, hey, you give me the relic, we'll find out what Ruby's planning, you can kill Ruby, and I'll give you the relic so you can ask it whatever you want after I'm done with it, right? Or find someone else to ask it. Maybe the idea was I'll ask it something for you based off of your request, right? And so that to me makes sense for why Neo has it, because some people said that she could just be having it for safekeeping, but the safest place for it to be keeping is on Cinder's body, from Cinder's perspective, unless it was this weird bit of trust, which also doesn't really make sense to me, because Neo having a relic that doesn't work is not, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to, like, fester or, like, foster the trust between them, right? And so I wonder then, if the reason why the relic's not glowing anymore is because that one's not the real one, and that's something Neo's illusions cannot actually do. And so when Cinder takes the relic off her belt, the real one is still inside of Neo's hat. And that is, yes, Hunter, stop shaking your head, Hunter. Okay?
No, I'm not shaking my head. It's kind of like son of a bitch, she's gonna do it.
Yeah, so, okay, and here's the other thing, right? Because
like, you were right. I didn't believe you, but I looked back at it and I'm like, no, it doesn't glow afterwards.
yeah, and so, but here's the weird part, okay? So Salem gets both of the relics from Cinder. She has them in her hands, and the camera is situated in a place where you don't see the top of the staff, but you do see the lamp, and they're different heights, so that makes sense. But if they wanted to convey the fact that Salem now had both of the relics, why not do a wider shot where you could see, like, to the top of the staff and to the bottom of Salem's dress, you know what I mean? It's a very weird shot because only the lamp is prominent. The rest is not, like, you know what I mean? The lamp is the prominent object in terms of the shot composition, not that Salem has
think they
won.
were being hinted?
Maybe they were trying, because people in my Discord, and I took this feedback very seriously, people in my Discord were like, but Cal, that would be kind of cheap because there's been nothing alluding to that. So I looked. I was like, okay, but we don't know that. Let's go look, right? Because we don't know if there's nothing alluding to it. Nobody's ever looked before. Doesn't what I'm saying make sense? If they wanted to show that Salem had both of the relics, they could have just panned from one relic to the other. Why only show the Relic of Knowledge in the shot? And then when Salem lifts it up, right? She's looking at the relics and she's like pretending to be impressed, or maybe she is impressed, right? She lifts up the relic and she looks at it and she has this eyebrow moment, right? And so some people have taken that as her being impressed at the fact that Cinder has been capable enough to get both of the relics. But I look at that scene again and I'm like, what if she's not impressed? What if she's raising her eyebrow because she knows something's whack about this, but she's just pretending?
Or like
and
maybe
saving
she's
it for
like
later.
confused because it looks different than how she remembered it. Or
Yeah, like
there's
Salem's
like some
kind of
minute
looking because she
detail.
smiles after, but first it's the eyebrow. And then it's the smile, right? Like, there's just a kind of minute thing in her facial expression where maybe it's just a smear frame kind of thing. But the way that I see it, it's like she looks at it and it looks kind of sus to her, and then she smiles. She's just trying to, like, praise Cinder's ego for the time being, because we do see later in the scene that she is suspicious of Cinder. She's side-eyeing her. And then when they're flying away, Cinder has a smile on her face, but Salem looks fucking pissed. And why would someone who just won look so fucking pissed, right? And so, could that be alluding to the fact that Salem knows that Cinder's kind of full of shit? Yeah, like, it could be that, but, like, you know what would make Cinder even more full of shit? If that relic wasn't even the fucking real one, right? And so, like, these two
I love
ideas...
how into this you are. Wasn't even the fucking real one.
Right, but, like, these two ideas are not incompatible. In fact, the idea that Salem is suspicious of Cinder and, like, kind of like, you're not telling me something, you use the last question, because I think that's what the scene is supposed to imply, in a sense, that Salem is suspicious of. The order of operations, Cinder says, is that Neo killed Ruby, then the rest of Team Ruby used the Relic of Knowledge to ask the last question, then the rest of Team Ruby fell, then Neo fell, right? Like, it's just, and we like, it sounds stupid to begin with, the way that Cinder, like, phrases how exactly it all happened, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
so I think
Cinder's too smart. Salem's too smart, I think.
So I think that the scene was supposed to be showing that Salem was suspicious of Cinder for that reason. But the relic not being real would actually be another layer of Cinder, you have fucked up.
If
like,
you
you
right
didn't fuck up that much, but you still fucked up a little bit because this relic isn't real. So, let's just all, can we just all from here on in, just go with the idea that the relic is in with Neo, because that's the rest of the theory that we have to get to.
But before you do that, two things. Like, how is she still, like, camouflaging?
Maybe she's not.
The other...
We don't know.
Okay,
it could be broken by now, right?
But she was already in the other...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
She was already in the other place when I was presented to.
Right.
So, and
well, maybe
I know
she fell for a really long time. We don't know.
At no point when she was falling did she think, I need to hold on to that.
Well, I think Neo's semblance, the way
What are they gonna do to her now? She's jumping the hole after her? Cinder's desperate for Mummy's approval. She's not that desperate for Mummy's approval.
I think, though, the way that Neo's semblance works, Hunter, it's not like if I touched your hair and made it pink right now.
Please
That's
say it
it.
one more time.
That's the that's the magic, right? If I made your hair pink, right? And you could go all the way home, and that would not be any depletion to me. It's when you get hit in the fucking head that suddenly, right? It's when you get hit in the head that suddenly it disappears, right? So I think that, like, Neo's semblance is kind of static in the sense that she can transform something.
Did you get hit on this side of your hair, but not that side?
As long as the thing doesn't get brutalized, right? Like the airship. That airship could theoretically stay camouflaged, I think, forever. It just is. The expelling of energy is the expense of transforming the thing. That thing will stay permanently transformed. I think that's kind of the idea with Neo. But, like, she also fell in the hole long enough to punch Ruby in the face. We don't really know how long that took. So she could have fallen in the hole and then it fucking cracked, right? Right?
I like, because they never totally explain how the longevity of it works, so it's vague enough that, like, sure, why not? But if she doesn't surely you'd need to be in the same plane of existence. But maybe she just fell for a very long time.
Yeah.
Maybe you are right. Maybe it just exists until someone bonks you on the head.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel like it might
Imagine
work, right?
if Emerald trips and drops it and it turns into... Okay, that's my other question. Is that what... Because I feel like there needs to be a great comedic moment where, like, oh, it was, I don't know, Lemon's hat. Or it was a bowling ball. Or it was a bunch of marbles. Or it was Mercury's old boot. Or just something really amusing. What do you think that becomes?
I think it would be funny if it was Watts' briefcase, just because Watts died, right?
Oh,
and Watts' briefcase is something that has a handle, so I think that that'd be kind of funny if, like, you know what I mean? Neo, I don't know, took his briefcase before they left or something, and then, like, that did it that way.
That.
And then it's kind of a last fuck you from Watts as well, because Cinder killed Watts. I don't know, like, that bag that he used to carry around all the time, the one that used to have the Grim in it, that kind of be funny, because then, maybe that's evidence, right? Then Salem knows that Cinder actually left Watts to die, because the thing that she gave him was the handbag. Like, anyway, I didn't expect us to talk about that, but that would be, wouldn't that be perfect?
It would also be like...
the relic, like, the illusion cracks, and it's Watts' handbag. That's a 2-for-1 fuck you. That's a fuck you from Neo and a fuck you from Watts to Cinder. Yeah.
Question. This makes Neo sound super smart and conniving.
Yes.
Which she is.
Yes.
Do you want to do this because it makes your favorite character look cool?
No. There is, thank you for the segue. There's a reason. I'm gonna take you on a journey now that we've all accepted that the relic is in the ever after.
Accepted is a strong word, but I'll let you continue
but, you know,
anyways.
Let's just pretend that we all have suspended our disbelief enough to think that this is possible, okay? So this is what happened. Neo finds RWBY, or Team RWBY, and they think that they're gonna square up for this big fight, and it's, I don't know, like it's episode 6 or 7 or whatever, like it's kind of mid-season sort of situation, and then like it's Neo, and then it's Team RWBY, or it's RWBY, and then we hear the clang of metal, and the scene goes to black, okay? Cliffhanger. We think that they're fighting. Next episode, they're gonna, okay? Next episode happens.
We're ready to fight.
Yeah, that's
Thank
it.
God they don't, you're not, because plot points you could do good. Fighting scenes, I don't know. If suddenly Neo becomes like an old 1930s pugilist.
So, okay, next episode happens.
You see?
And we think that the clang of metal is a fight, right? But it's actually the relic. Neo has taken the relic out of her hat and she tosses it on the ground. Okay?
Out of her hat?
Yeah, so she gets it out of Roman's hat. She pulls the real one, exactly,
big?
just like how she did before.
Like a Pokeball.
And she fucking throws that shit at RWBY, right? Because you think there's gonna be a fight, but she's holding her umbrella and she's ready to fight, and she's facing it at, like, she's pointing it at RWBY, right? So you see that there's fighting energy, right? But she throws the relic on the ground, and RWBY is like, how did you get
I like
that?
the idea
what the
that,
fuck?
like,
right? Like, RWBY has this reaction like, what is going on? So Neo conveys in her body language, right? You can either fight me, or you can prove that you didn't kill Roman. Those are your choices. You can ask the relic what happened to Roman, so I can confirm and see it for myself, or I'm gonna kill you. Those are your options.
You know how people would be mad because they're like, oh, RWBY Neo fight, and then she throws down and then Neo looks at it and looks at Neo and then looks down at the Remnant and then back at Neo and goes, thank you?
That'd be so fun. They can still fight. They can have a fight earlier in the volume and maybe Neo gets away before she can explain what she wants or something, right? Like, I'm not trying to deprive us of, like, Team RWBY versus Neo. I'm just saying that maybe they fight a little bit because maybe they see Neo first, so their first instinct is to go fuck with her, and Neo's like, wait a minute! And so she takes out the relic and gives it to them, maybe to get out of trouble by herself a second, versus approaching them and throwing the relic on the ground so we can still have a little fight, okay? So then what happens is that RWBY's like, but the relic's out of questions. And Neo's just like, do I look like I give a fucking fuck? Like, I don't give a single fuck, RWBY. Just open the fucking lamp, RWBY, okay? And so that's how Neo, obviously, in her body language, that is what it would convey. Like, just open it. I don't care if you think it doesn't have questions. Just do it, right? And so RWBY's like, okay, I don't think this is gonna work. And so she calls on Jin, and Jin is like, guys, like, what is going on? Why are you here? What is this plan? Maybe Jin doesn't even know, because maybe Jin only has knowledge of everything that's on Remnant. If they're not on Remnant, I feel like Jin would be very curious, because it's something that even she doesn't know about, but she may be kind of freaked out. Like, she may be like, for all the shit that you guys have put me through. Like, you know, I have been in the vault for 400 years or whatever. It can't be that long because the Great War was only 80 years ago. But, like, Ozpin never gave me all this shit, okay? Where the fuck are you? So anyway, so Jin has some sort of funny hee hee ha ha little reaction, right?
That's not a funny hee ha. That's like she genuinely loses it.
Yeah, I would like to see her kind of lose it.
No, I am not your big-tittied blue mommy genie. I am upset now.
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? And so Jin has a very reaction.
A very reaction indeed.
To the fact that they are not on Remnant anymore and whatever. So RWBY's like, hey, Jin, I know you said, like, you know, no more, whoopsie daisies or loopholes or, you know, anything. Like, but Like, she wants me to ask you a question, so tell her that I can't ask you a question, right? And Jin's actually like, well, technically, the Ever After has no time, but at the same time, it has all the time in the world. Like some Wonderland fuckity-wuckity bullshit. So they don't get unlimited questions, but the question reset is back to 3, because this is not Remnant, and time does not work the same way. Wonderland is kind of strange in that way, but it's not like a freebie, you get a million questions. It's that you get 3 questions and then they will never restore, no matter how many thousands of years that you stay here, because that is not how it works. So Ruby's like, oh, well, that's very convenient, I guess. And then Ruby says, what caused the death of Roman Torchwick? That's how she phrases it, right?
Oh.
Because then that way, what we get to see is every bad decision that Roman has ever made in his entire life, okay?
No, the episodes are only like 18 minutes long. We don't have the runtime.
Okay.
We don't have the runtime for all those bad decisions.
To simplify, right? What caused Roman's death in this particular way? Roman would have never died in this way if it wasn't for Cinder. So that's where we start. That scene where Cinder approaches Roman and he does the hello, gorgeous, right? Like he has that little thing with her. We see the rest of that scene, possibly see like Cinder threatening Roman like she did with Adam, because I feel like Roman in the books very explicitly says, I don't want to work for anyone else. I work for me. I'm my own boss. Like, you know what I mean? He's an entrepreneurial king, right? He doesn't want to, so I feel like maybe Roman didn't actually want to work with Cinder, but he had no choice. And we also see that in volume 3, right? Because he says like, I can't fight them, so you may as well join them. Like he literally says that to Ruby. And he tries to skip town
the one time in volume 2, I believe.
Yeah, kinda. He seems like it seems like he wants to, but then they kill Tuxin, who is also skipping town, right? And so I feel like that, like, there may have been that sort of vibe that, like, Cinder may have threatened Roman in the very first place, and that Roman was just like, okay, let's just do this, and then we leave. We go somewhere else. And so you see that scene, like, briefly, because we're not gonna spend a lot of time on this, but maybe, like, let's just say, like, 7 minutes, okay? And so we get the Cinder and Roman conversation, kind of like how Cinder, the plan with RWBY, kind of flashed into different, like, scenes. Like, you see the one where they're all in the group circle, then you see the one where in the dining room. So you see that sort of, like, Cinder talking to Roman, and then Roman trying to convince Neo that, like, it's actually a good idea that cannot possibly go wrong. More of Neo and Roman's relationship, and then we cap it all off with, of course, like, Roman being eaten by the Grimm. And Neo is, like, in shambles at this point, right? She's, like, emotionally, like, broken at this point. And it's a very emotional episode, which has a lot of flashbacks and, like, Roman voiceover stuff. Like, you know what I mean? We get to see Roman, we get to see Neo, we get to see, like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna be in this together, and after that, we'll leave and we'll go to Mistral or Vacuum or wherever you want. Like, that sort of thing,
they'll
right?
never catch us.
Something that makes us really feel for Neo, I think. Like, to show the true capacity of what she actually lost. And then it ends with the Grimm.
What if she asked Jin for what Roman would want for her?
Oh, that's
and they
so
get this,
sad.
like, and they get this kind of mad, like, Roman appears.
So it's not even what happened to Roman. She asked RWBY to ask what Roman would have wanted.
Or maybe she asked that because like, once again, you have to watch that other 30-minute video.
Right.
But it's like it resets
really
when it goes
like
to the
that.
Neverworld. So, like, what if she asked to ask him, and he says, like, I don't want you to, like, yeah, I mean, maybe, but...
Yeah, that's actually very sweet.
I want you to be happy.
I kind of like, what if that's what RWBY does? Like, what if Neo says, show me what happened to Roman, right? Says, what if Neo extends, tell me what happened to Roman.
Doesn't know, because what if Roman's a real piece of shit? We now know that they had a very good relationship.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that Neo tells RWBY, ask what happened to Roman. But then RWBY is like light bulb, what would Roman have wanted for Neo?
Oh my god, we should make little bracelets to say, what would Roman do?
No.
WWRD.
But, like, what if that's it? Because that's actually very interesting to me, because then that's, like, that to me is completely in RWBY's character to do. Is that she, I don't know, kind of believes in the best and kind of wants the best. And so she asks the Relic, like, what would Roman want for Neo in order to sway her to give up the revenge? That, to me, makes logical, perfect, in-sense, like RWBY character versus like RWBY just fucking killing her. You know, that speaks to me in terms of like that speaks to me in terms of like, yeah, RWBY would totally do that.
Closure.
Yeah, that is like RWBY
Neo
would definitely
deserves closure, and I think that would be like the cool. That would kind of be more Ilya and also Hazel, where it's like, no, I'm not gonna revenge.
Yeah.
This isn't helpful for me.
I talked about this with my Discord server, and I understand that people think that in terms of Roman coming back in any capacity, it would be more interesting if that was a function of the island rather than a function of Jin, which we already know and exists in our actual world, which I do agree with and I understand, but I don't see why it can't be both. Like, you can easily have Roman as a hallucination, but then also include the idea of Jin, because I think that the other thing that does, Neo is kind of useless to Team RWBY. Like, I disagree with that, because, like, in terms of fighting Salem, it's not like that there's more, like, capable huntresses spawning out of fucking thin air, right? Like, you can't just pull more huntresses out of Theodore's ass crack and expect them to fight against Salem for you, right? And so, like, you know, in terms of Emerald getting, like, going on the good side and Mercury going on the good side and Neo going on the good side, whatever, like, you can say that Mercury, Emerald, and Neo are not good people, and you would be right. However, like, in this time, in these desperate times, do we really get to feel picky? Like, I feel like that it would kind of be a waste just to kill Neo right here, like, at this moment in time, instead of trying to use her capabilities to something, right? And so I think that in this scenario, now Neo has actually done something useful for Team RWBY. They now have the Relic of Knowledge, right? They can now ask the Relic of Knowledge either how to get out of Wonderland if they can't figure that out, how to stop Salem instead of killing Salem, Ozpin, right? Like, the value that Neo brings by kind of being here is also in the sense of, like, Neo has now provided something useful to Team RWBY and has found out the truth about Roman, and that kind of diffuses Neo's want for revenge against RWBY specifically, because now she would want probably to go against Cinder, because Jin has showed her explicitly that Cinder was the cause of Roman's death.
So two questions. What does Salem do then? Because I feel like Salem would be like, no, you're going back into that pit. Or does she make another portal with...
Well, that is kind of interesting, because we had that theory before, that Cinder may go after them in the void. However, for Cinder to know where they went is the complicated part, unless she's able to ask Ambrosius to make what he made 2 maids ago. You know what I mean?
Unless
like,
they send another hound or something else?
But you understand what I'm saying, Hunter? Yeah. Like, the portal thing is a bit difficult because Ambrosius seemed to know that there were consequences to falling, but it's unclear whether those consequences were created by him or were natural consequences that could be reproduced by producing the same portal void, right?
I mean, you could just ask him, make a portal to where Team RWBY and the other thing is.
That's true.
And you'd end up, but part of me would sail and be like, no, you've done enough. I'm gonna send in more hounds.
Maybe, and like that Grim invade this kind of magical, grimless world, which is kind of fucked up. I think that's interesting.
Because then it could be like, hey guys, we're Team RWBY. We're trying to help you as well.
Yeah.
Because like the Grim are gonna come. They're gonna know we have this. They can be able to find us.
The only problem that I foresee with that situation is that Volume 9 is only like 9 episodes long or something, I think, 10. Or 10, yeah. So that's the problem. At the same time, we've seen a lot of footage from probably the first 3 episodes and not, like, I feel like after episode 7 or 6 or whatever, you could definitely, like,
but
do that.
Because either they do that or they don't do that. If they don't do that, then, like, it kind of, like, why wouldn't Salem not send people, which probably means that they have both.
I think, okay, in terms of Salem not sending anyone, I think that here is the reason. Yes, she can send Grim through there. However, we know that dust doesn't work when it's no longer in Remnant's atmosphere. So that begs the question whether or not the Grim would actually work if they were no longer a part of Remnant's atmosphere either. Because semblance work because they're a production of you, right? Your soul and your aura and whatnot. They're basically part of your biology, if you want to get technical.
Because the hounds are like human and Grim.
But the Grim part of the hounds would probably come into a bit of a question, right?
But we don't know. We don't know.
We don't know that. Yeah. But the other problem is, that I could foresee, is that Salem's curse curses her to walk the face of Remnant forever. So I feel like that she would probably be like, okay, you fucked up, I'm going in there myself, and she can't. And she doesn't trust Cinder enough to go in there. And if she lets Cinder go in there, Cinder's the maiden and could die there. It's too much of a risk just to get back a relic that has already been used and that they could get again later. So that is my argument against the Salem point. But what were you gonna say? What's your second question?
My second question is that, okay, we now have because I have some ideas for this, but we now have a Relic of Knowledge that you're gonna ask 2 more questions.
Yes.
So what questions? Because I feel at the very end they're gonna have another question that comes up, and then as they're leaving the Everland, they're like, well, we have one more question. Might as well ask: is do we have any? What do we want to know?
How do you stop Salem makes the most sense, right?
Well, maybe they could ask, how do you stop Salem? But they already kind of learned that
but
before.
But you can't kill Salem. Can you stop Salem? That's what I mean, right?
Yeah, but then my question would be, would it be interesting if like RWBY and Yang ask what happened to their mom? Yeah. What happened to Summer Rose?
I feel like that'd be like a Volume 9 cliffhanger. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that there's not enough runtime.
Yeah.
Like, you know, or something.
But like, if they, I'm just saying, because like they might use the knowledge relic some way in the middle. Yeah. Like for plot reasons, and they have one more, and they're gonna lose it when they get back to Remnant. The
questions would be, how do we stop Salem from exploding the world, right? Or something, or how do we break Salem's curse of immortality, or something that, because they know how to break Salem's curse technically, but like they don't know.
What if they do ask and they say the only way to stop her is to, they just
teach
reiterate the point? Well, that's my theory, is that she needs to learn the value of humanity, but she won't.
If they can't figure it out on their own, will be, how the fuck do we get out of here? That's like the easy one. How do we leave? How do we get out? That is the easy one.
That makes sense, but I feel like as they're going into Remnant, the last thing would be like, we have one question to ask, and they would ask, what happened to my mother?
Maybe.
And I feel like Stinger, end of the season.
And then Volume 10 starts with that.
And then Volume 10 starts with that. Would that not be good?
But I don't think they would have time to cover that in Volume 9, is what I'm saying. So yes, Hunter, I think that if it happens on a cliffhanger, that makes sense. But the reason why I said no to you earlier is because I thought that you meant like that we would see it in the rest of Volume 9.
Hunter?
No, because I thought that you meant that we would see it in the rest of Volume 9. If that's the cliffhanger and we go into Volume 10 like that, that actually makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Cool.
However, I do think trying to find another way to save the world is probably going to be on the top of their to-do list, right? And so they're probably going to try to find a way to phrase their question in order to do that. But now that we're at the end, okay, how convinced are you that this is true, right? Because it's pretty circumstantial in terms of the relic not glowing anymore. That could just be explained by the fact that it's done. But like, Neo isn't like a stranger to swapping things out with each other.
Yeah, she's already done that.
Books.
Didn't she already do that?
In the show, right? She's done it. Like, we've seen her do it. There is precedent, because I understand what people were saying in my Discord server, that like a twist without a hint is not funny. Like, you're just leaving the audience out. But I don't actually think this would be leaving the audience out, because there's enough. Like, Neo's done it before. She's hid it in her hat before. The relic isn't glowing anymore. Salem has a weird reaction that you could construe. Like, in the Volume 9 commentary, when the relic is revealed, Eddie Revis will say, you know, we tried to like showcase this before when Salem raised her eyebrows. Like, that is what they will say. They will expose the hints.
You know, Calxiyn,
right?
I hate that you're right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And before I doubted you, and at this point, part of me is like, it's feasible. I also think it's a little bit of the old copium, because that way Neo survives and she gets to keep
more ways for Neo to survive.
I know you do. 101 ways Neo can survive through Volume 9.
The video.
Yes, you should. But like, it's feasible, but it's also like, I know your biases. And your biases are not the show's biases for Neo.
Right.
I like the idea of Neo sticking around, and I like the idea of Neo being this chaotic energy of like, listen, I'm not a good guy. I'm not helping you. But like, maybe she shows up later in the 11th hour and she helps fight Cinder.
I mean, I don't think it's even like, I think that those two things are unrelated though. Like, the idea of Neo getting any sort of redemption and the idea of her having the relic are kind of two different situations, and we're gonna
But
talk
of her
about
being
this
like,
week, too.
I don't know if she survives this season. Part of me
We'll
thinks
talk
she
about that
stays
later.
in Neverland.
We'll
but,
talk about it.
But yeah,
But what do you think about the relic being there with her, specifically?
plausible. Very,
Like, what
very
percentage?
plausible. I'm not good with percentage. Very, like
Like a 7 or a 6?
Like a 6.
Okay,
Like
6
a 6 or a 7.
I'll take it. Okay, I hope that you guys enjoyed. Thank you for attending Calxyn's Royal Court, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye!